Salutations, world of Cardfight Vanguard. My name is Stephen Coy, and this is Princess Peach. It's a matter I made for myself because of my awesome result of taking third place at BCS Chicago Rosemont. And today I'm going to be bringing you a deck profile on what I used to get that placing. I was running Oracle Think Tank with a Mage's engine, which was really dedicated towards promoting early game aggression and amassing lots of resources to coast into the later stages of the game. The goal of the deck was to put my opponent to a minimum of 3 damage before my first stride and stay at 2 damage before their first stride. And I played 8 rounds out of 10 because I was able to amass 2 buys thanks to my stock tournament challenge, where I took the exact same build and won that tournament with that in order to coast into what I needed to do to get there. I took second in the Swiss, and then I took third place overall in top 8. And I played against Dark Irregular, 3 Bermuda Ange decks, a Coral deck, Royal Paladins, Nubatama, and Gear Chronicle. Winning against everything except for Gear Chronicle due to a heavy misplay that the Gear Chronicle player, very skilled player, first time at a regional, he played that deck very effectively in a format in which I was not expecting to run into it that late in the tournament. And the Bermuda player who eventually took first place, who I actually beat in Swiss, but grinded me all the way out in top 8. He was very, very skilled. He played out of really poor situations, and he was still able to amass some very, very good wins. So shout out to those guys. They did a very good job. I don't know my names by heart, but if you see them, if you see their stuff going on, you know what I'm talking about. But on to the deck profile. I'm going to start with my starter, Semi-Lunar Mages. So this card I like more than Lozenge Mages. Because it actually nets me 2 cards instead of 1. Semi-Lunar Mages' skill, after being 4-on, is when it boosts a unit, my Vanguard has Mages in its card name, I can declare the top card of my deck. And if it's correct, I can throw this unit in my soul, add that card to my hand, and draw an additional card. This is actually really good for early game. All of the grade 1s I play are Mages, so having a Vanguard with Mages in its card name isn't too difficult for going second. I have ways around it going first as well, which I'll show you in a bit. But most importantly, even if I checked a critical trigger or anything of the like, I still added it to my hand because with this variant of the deck, it was more important for me to generate attacks and draw lots of cards, and also for me to try to generate an additional damage. EG Time is known for being able to get free damage later on anyway, and it actually was a very successful strategy regardless of what it was I needed to check. I didn't mind not seeing this on board for cards that blew things up, like Kagro. I actually never ran into it, and I was able to get it early off with it where it didn't really matter. So, Semi-Lunar Mages is our starter. Next, I run for the Circle Mages. This is our kind of our this is optimal ride for sure. I was able to ride into this all but 2 games. I was really happy about that. I mean, the new Mulligan rules are amazing. When you ride on top of this unit, you can count to draw a card. Is really all that really matters for the card. But it also has the ability to filter away a grade 2 or greater unit that you drive checked by bottom decking it to draw a card instead. That effect actually almost cost me a couple of games because I ended up drawing into the critical trigger that was next because I didn't want the grade 3. But at that point, it's kind of like just managing what you have and understanding what's going on. It's kind of an additional effect anyway. But we do play 4 because we want to see it as early as possible, as often as possible. Next, we play 3 Qualified Mages. When you call that unit to Regard, you can check the top card of your deck and place them on top and bottom of the deck. Usually see that around 3 or 4 of all OTT decks because its effect is amazing for filtering the top of the deck and doing what it is that OTT does best. But in this deck, you want to know what the top card is, and this is one of the only ways to do it early enough in the game where you're not revealing that information to your opponent without giving up power like Battle Sister Coco would. So I do play the, and it's also got Mage in its card name, which really helps for Semi-Lunar, so I do play that 3. I don't usually mind seeing it. I love seeing it in early game. I try to pressure as much early game grade 1 as I possibly can to get this effect to go off as often as I can to make it happen. So we do play this at 3. Next we play the 4 Cone Mages, which is actually the MVP of the deck. On ride or on call, I can call the top card of my deck, and if it's correct, after I reveal it, I can countercharge still. This effect makes it so I can freely check the top of my deck for free, while amassing me 2 counter blasts for later on, making it so I can kind of whimsically use the counter blasts I have and still have some for later. This is like a great comeback card for when I'm going first because I stay at low damage, so I can always have Ichi plays no matter what. I can go into Susanoo later on, and I can always have Silent Toms go off because Imperial and CEO lets me stack before. It's just a great call overall. I was never upset to see this card. I wanted to see it as much as possible, and I buffed up 4, and I was very happy with the results. So 4 Clone Mages. Moving on to the Grade 2s. Oh, but not before a quick shout out to our Perfect Guard friend, Higher Deity Protecting Official Hikuto Hikone. I'm actually going to be taking him out of the deck. I was looking at it with a lot of testing, and the 8 games I played, I think I used him 1 time because I didn't have anything else. But beyond that, I ended up pitching him for other like Perfect Guard costs and whatnot. The thing is that in Premium, it's a very multi-attack and guard restricting format as you go higher up in the meta. A lot of decks like Bermuda, I even saw Dr. Regular and stuff like that are going to be based on either hitting you as much as possible with as big numbers as possible, or guard restricting you overall anyway. And the idea behind playing this was so that I can have something to guard Ichi Kishima if I ever played against a regular Ichi Tom deck. But even in that circumstance, I have the Protect gift markers if it really ever comes up. And so it was kind of a hit and miss. I never even used its other skill. You know, the Counterblast one, you have Oracle. You can grab this card from your drop zone to your hand, and then you bind a random card in your hand. I never used that skill. The times that it did come up, I already had 2 PGs in hand, and I was up against multi-attack, so the PGs didn't particularly matter. So these are actually going to become Strike Fighter because that became more relevant, and there are many times I saw this and wish it was Strike Fighter. So right now it's 2, but it is going to become Strike Fighter later on. Now we move to the Grade 2s. The 4 Silent Tom, Elephant to the Room, it is still running the Ichi Tom win condition because there's no way I'm not going to be running that. I'm not just going to choose not to play it. It's very, very good. It won me all of my games. I'm not even going to pretend like it didn't. Making in a format where people are generating lots of advantage really easily, Silent Tom and Ichi Kishima make it so your opponent cannot guard with anything besides intercept and protect gift markers. And outside of a few situations, they usually aren't going to be having either of those options, so I was able to just kind of turn Silent Tom to the side and see damage. And my opponent really couldn't do anything else. You kind of last 1 to give him +6 to make it so intercepting is even harder to do, and you win games with it. It's really, really broken, and it's what the deck does to win games, because otherwise it genuinely cannot grind out. It doesn't have multi-attacks. It doesn't have like huge numbers, so it doesn't have ways to grind out my opponent's hand otherwise. So this is really their only way to fight later on during the game. And so while it is broken, it's kind of all we have to work with during that point, because otherwise we just get walled out by a lot of other stuff. I do play 4 Promise Daughter. I initially threw this in because I thought the ability to stay static on board regardless of my opponent trying to retire was going to be useful, but I ended up keeping it at 4 for a different reason. The base 15k power when you have 4 cards in hand is really, really good, especially against decks like Blasters. When they were sitting on their Blaster Blade, and I would call the Promise Daughter to board, and then it'd be a 15k beater on its own, so I can call 2 grade 1s to another column, soon with Vanguard, and I have a whole front row of 3 attacks coming through to really push for that strategy I was trying to go for. That was really useful, especially since they went first and they're sitting at a 10k, but otherwise it's a nice feature to have in early game, and I'm never really disappointed to see it. We do play 3 Stellar Mages. This will be going to 4. I'll be dropping a card I'll show you later on in order to get it to 4. It didn't really matter. I draw a lot of cards in this deck, and I filter a lot, so I usually don't have an issue of getting into Stellar Mages. In fact, in all of the games I played, I didn't have an issue of getting the Stellar Mages, regardless of the fact that I only played 3. And I only played 3 because later on in the game, it stops becoming useful. All it's really doing is, A, it has a Mage's name so that Semiluna's skill can go off, and B, it really accelerates early game by allowing me to counterblast 1 to check the top card of my deck after I've declared it, and if that card was correct, I can draw it. If it wasn't, then it goes back to the top of my deck, and I countercharge 1. And that was really important because it gave me another free way to make it so I can proc Semilunar. If I had a game where I had Stellar Mages, Promise Daughter, and Semilunar, and nothing else, and no other way to check the top card of my deck. And so I swung with Stellar Mages, counterblasted 1, called the wrong card on purpose, so that I could, or like any other OTT card, because it only needs to be an OTT card, so I called like a Susanoo at the time. And then Semi-Lunar Mage's skill was able to proc off of whatever it was that Stellar Mage's revealed. So I got 2 cards anyway. And so this card, I do want to see more of it. I never want to run into a situation where I can't get to it. I consider myself very fortunate that I was able to with the 3 I have. I'm not even going to lie about that. So this is what we're going for. On to the grade 3s. I play 4 CO Amaterasu, or Amaterasu, depending on how you pronounce it. Protect gift markers are, in my opinion, very broken. I can soapbox at another time. I definitely think that we have some of the best grade 3s that we can ask for in terms of just raw utility, because that's what it says, utility. Act, counterblast 1, draw a card to the top card of your deck, put it on top of the bottom of the deck. Works in conjunction with all the Mage's cards. I need to know what the top card is, and I don't really care what it is. Most of the time, you'll bottom deck if it's not a trigger. Now you want to hit it if it's not a trigger, so you can grab the card and still dig. The other effect is to give +5 every time you check your deck, and that works in tandem because all the Mages just check the top card of the deck, bar circle. And so this deck was this was made for Mages to work together with. And I'm obviously going to have it at 4. I want to see it when I ride first, and it's Tri-Powder in any other circumstance, unless I'm really desperate to get the gifts marker, because I would much rather ride Imperial Daughter, who is, to me, is one of the best grade 3s in standard format as of the point which this video is being made, which is the beginning of September. And Imperial Daughter, on ride, counterblast 1, choose the top 2 cards of your deck, grab 1 and top deck the other, or throw it into your soul, which really accelerates for Deer. It makes it so you know the top card of your deck for Mage's cards. It makes it so it powers up Amaterasu if you have it on board, and more importantly, it gives you an extra card when you stride. So if you end up with 3 cards in your hand at the start of the turn, you can draw to 4, ride Imperial back to 3, grab a marker to go back to 4, and then use its skill to go to 5 before you stride, go back down to 4, and then you can draw 2 with each. You do a lot of things, and Imperial being able to give you a card before you stride almost gives it like an on-stride skill, in my opinion. So, for Imperial Daughter, you always want to have it. We do play a Deer, but it's so weird. I never used it. I never used it. In all the games I played, I never used it. I never missed it. I threw it away, and I never missed having it. Because my deck is so aggro in the early game, it pushes so hard to get damage high enough so that I can try to win by my first or second Ichi turn, which, in a couple of circumstances, the 2 games I mentioned where I lost, I always did. I would always just win on my first Ichi turn because I grinded so early, I pushed so early before striding. And so Deer needing me to hit a second Imperial at minimum and soul charging a grade 3 with Amaterasu or with Daughter, it was too costly and it took too long for it to go off. So I never really used it. It will be going off for the 4 Stellar Mages. It's nice, but in this variant it's win more. So onto triggers. I'm going to be very short and sweet with this one. It's 10 crit. Free shuffle for your deck so you can shuffle your stack away for whatever you have. Crits are really good with Tom. The damage is free, so outside of the situations previously mentioned. So I do play 10 crit. I do play 2 draw. I am going to probably keep it at 2 in-deck perfect cards because I have, again, it's a multi-deck format, and I have, my protect gift markers. So I do have it here because draw triggers are still nice to have, and they dodge every form of garbage like bar Ichi, some stuff in Dark Irregulars, and some other cards. So, and then for those I have these. So, and then 4 heal triggers because Bushi finally gave this to us, but they're not double R. Oh no! Obviously these are good for utility in a lot of situations. They work in conjunction with Battle System Vanguard. So they allow you to counter charge or soul charge. If you have 2 heal triggers and you drop one after using the skill, including this one, if you discard it for the cost of G-Guard, bind 2 of them and then you can refund the counterblast soul blast. So we do play the heal triggers. And we'll be moving on to the G-Zone in the next video. So stay tuned. G-Zone, we're going to start with 4 Stillwater Festival Deity Ichikishima. This is, again, like I said, the element in the room. When I was mentioning Silent Tom with the infamous Ichi-Tom combo, a lot of people are really pushing for its ban and its hit, but to be perfectly honest, it's really the deck's 1 win condition in this format. The only way it could actually fight back against the massive hands being generated by the opponent We don't multi-attack. We don't generate enormous numbers that force the opponents. This is all we have. I know it's really, really broken, and I'm not defending saying that it's not a completely busted card, but it's really all that OTT has to work with, especially with this. So we do see that it draws you 2 cards with the Counter Blast, Soul Blast, and the Persona Flip, and at GB3 you can flip any card. I love flipping like Sabreeze or whatever. At Oracle, and for the remainder of the turn, they cannot guard with grade 0s or G guards. Again, this is the deck's win con. It's really what the deck has that allows it to do more than just amass large cards in hand and wait for the opponent to beat out those cards in hand and lose. So we backs it out. We always want to be able to stride it when we can, unless we're like going second and it's our first stride and we have nothing else to do. I did stride it one time. I ended up missing it later on, so I kind of regret that. So, but yeah, 4. Next we play the 2 Lord of Guidance Wakahinome. This unit did come up during the day, twice actually. You at GB2, yes, you at an Oracle, when you declare an attack, you Counter Blast, Soul Blast, and Persona Flip to draw a card and throw 1 card from your hand on top of your deck. I often throw heals with this because, I mean, when I'm going into it, if I'm ever not able to go into Ichi, which are the 2 times I actually went into Wakahinome because I couldn't go Ichi anymore because I used them and they survived for whatever reason. I threw the heal on top of the deck, and both times that I used this card, my opponent verbally stated, "Oh, so you stacked your crit," with however much disdain it had. But both times that I used it, that was not correct. And I don't mind it because I threw a lot of guard to protect the Wakahinome that was just healing my Vanguard. So we do play that too. I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. And the same goes for State of Fair Subjugation Deity Kama Susano, whose skills at GB2. When you strike this unit, Counter Blast 2, draw up to 5 cards. Draw until your hand has 5 cards. And then it has another skill at GB2 in the Oracle. When you have 500 cards in hand, it gets a 5,000 power boost and a crit, which happens during drive check, which is obviously amazing. And more importantly, it's your oops button for when you can't go into Ichi or Wakahinome because you can't hit Oracle. I was running that before, and if you have 2 cards in your hand at the start of before you stand and draw, and you have no way to ride Imperial Daughter, like you don't have it for any reason, you cannot amass Oracle in any way. You draw your card for turn, pick your card for stride, and if it's Ichi, you can draw 2, and then you have 4 cards in hand. And no other cards in the deck can draw you more than enough cards to replace itself. We have a lot of ways to try to buffer that and prevent it from happening, since Ichi time is kind of your win condition. Well, not kind of, it is your win condition. But if you ever can't, with Cone Mages refunding your Counter Blast, this really makes it so you can stride and still have 5 cards in hand to make plays for later. We have our first stride, Dragon Destroyer Battle Deity Kama Susano, which is a smaller and older version of the State of Affair Justice Subjugation Deity. I really can't wait for us to be able to get Mages on grade 3 from the trial deck. I'm really hoping that's the case because it's what we ran in the manga. So we can go Globe Mages instead, because this is not really doing it in this format anymore. It's an on-hit, you check the top 2 cards of your deck, add 1 to your hand and bottom deck the other, and at GB3, all of your units get plus 2,000 power. And both of those skills in this late in the format are really underwhelming. On-hits for Vanguards are really easy to block. I only got it to go off 1 time, and it really didn't push me too far ahead. But you don't want to waste your Ichis, and you want to still have something that can get you to GB3. And so this is kind of like the best option to go with, in my opinion. I think this is I do think this is objectively the best option to go with, besides vomiting Ichis away when you're going first and you have nothing else to go for. 1 GB8, Counter Blast 1 at GB8, of course. Check the top 5 cards of your deck, grab up to 3 of them and add to your hand, and then stack the rest on the top and bottom of the deck. And then if you're at Oracle, when you drive check something, you're in front, and it's a trigger, your front row gets plus 5,000 power. When we first saw this card, we thought it was really underwhelming last year, but in testing, we realized that this actually has a lot more, especially at the stage in the game in which you use it, because it was really late back then. It came up for me twice. I won 1 game with it, but the other game I got grinded out. But it was nice to know that I still would have won because of I was in time. I went to 5 damage. I had enough resources to survive the 5 damage, still hit Oracle after I used this the turn prior, and then hit Ichi time next turn. So this is a really nice card to have when you're flipping through all the cards in your G zone and you have this as an option. Our other alternate finisher is Ultima. I never used it, but it's another card I'm not just going to not run it. Ultima, you counterblast 2 on Ultimate Stride, look for 4 cards, calling 2 of them to your rear guard, and stacking the other 2 on top of your deck. And then you get, all of your units get the trigger effects when you drive check. So your board gets +10 if you drive check a Psychic Bird or a Nike, and +5 if you drive check anything else. It's nice. I want to have it and not need it. I'm not going to just not run it, like I said. And same with the Breeze. New rules make it so it's easier to stride when your opponent is grade locked at 2, but I'm not going to not run it. In case that does happen, I'm pretty sure you guys know what Breeze does, but if you don't, you counterblast 2 during your main phase, and discard a card from your hand to stride this when your opponent has a grade 2 and did not ride their previous turn and you're at grade 3. So it does help push for GB3, but it didn't come up. I'm not going to not run it and not have it go. Go on to the G guards to finish up. We have Bavois, which is to me the better of the 2, but it's not as big as Amaterasu. You draw a card with a counterblast on place and then you reveal the top card of your deck. And if it's a grade 1 or greater, it gets +5,000 shield. What's more important is if you draw the card. It replaces the heal trigger, makes it so you can still try to generate Oracle during your turn, and allows you to check the top card of your deck and then top or bottom deck it so you can filter for your next card. That's really important to make it so in conjunction with the heal trigger refunding the counterblast potentially, you can still push for your win con turns later on. So I wanted to bump this up to 3, but I didn't want to give away the big shield, which was the Amaterasu. Gets +10,000 power if you have 4 other cards in your hand on place, and then you soul charge 1 and check the top card of your deck and then top or bottom deck it. I checked 2 heals with this. Very happy about that during the game. And one time my opponent just started attacking rear guard, so I guess I just drew the heal, which was another free G card. I wasn't upset about that. But it's big. This in conjunction with a 15k shield from a crit trigger makes it so your opponent really can't beat that in the first stride, so I can go to EG my next turn and proceed to win. So that actually is the G zone for that, and that is the deck for what it was that we ran for our Magus Ichi Tom build for top 3 and regional. Again, my name is Stephen Coy, and I'm really glad you guys stuck on to tune in. I hope you guys enjoyed the deck profile, and I hope you guys enjoyed testing this out. Have a nice day. Take it easy.